Hello, dear viewer. Welcome to my own slice of the internet, the Man of Culture YouTube channel. My name is Billy, and I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts on Halo Infinite. So, sit back, unwind, and enjoy the show. Let's get right into it. So first off, I want to go into some initial impressions on the game. Recently is when I finally have gotten to play it. Now, this is a game I was very hyped for and was hyped from the beginning, even after that weird claymation looking version of the main villain we see throughout the game. That was a pretty good trailer for what was going to happen in the game. I feel like they did a good job at hyping up what this game will be and all sorts of cool aspects of it, especially that trailer where they show the creation of the new suit and the grappling shot. All of that works together to really build a new universe for Halo, a new side of the story, and further into the story of the Forerunner saga, which, if you didn't know, that's where we've been since Halo 4 and have been continuing on from there. Now, initial impressions wise, I do think this is a game I really did love. I don't know if I would put it in the top upper tiers of my Halo games. I feel like it's more of a Dark Souls 2 type of situation where it's a good game, but not a good game for its franchise. Now, I do love it, and I do feel like it does a lot of things right, but the things it does wrong just don't help its case. I really feel like it does a lot of things that are questionable. Like, really, the pacing of the story and how that works. It's not the pacing that's bad necessarily. It's more the fact that we don't actually see a lot of the villain. Like, in past Halo games, we really saw all these villains throughout the games, and they were really well defined and really well built up through multiple cutscenes and even interactions within the campaigns. Now, this could be due to the fact that, yes, it is 343 instead of Bungie doing the games now, but it's also a matter of speaking of there's a whole new look on how these things are made, and I feel like that is kind of becoming a problem for 343 developing these games. I do appreciate the story they're telling, and I feel like going forward, they probably will have DLCs for this game, because if you didn't know, I'm not going to really get into spoilers in this video. Maybe in the gameplay you might see some stuff that you don't want to, but anyway. So, as far as the story goes, it does a good job at building a world, like I said before. The world building is well done, but it could have been better. I mean, sure, we had Halo Wars 2, which led us into the Banished story that we are getting with Infinite, and does work good as a prelude into this sort of concept of story where the UNSC is just defeated and hammered by the Banished. However, that's to say that we don't get a lot of that storyline. They really have more of an aspect of the story of Master Chief and the Machine, and it works good. It's a good father-daughter kind of relationship, even though she's an AI. That's a weird kind of thing. But either way, they have a good relationship and a good chemistry between the three main characters of the game, being Master Chief, the Machine, and the pilot, which we get to learn a decent bit about. I feel like they do a good job at humanizing the Master Chief. Different dialogue between just the straight-up soldiers is funny. I really enjoyed that kind of stuff, and the grunt over the intercom dissing you throughout the game, that's a very fun aspect. And overall, I really did enjoy my experience playing this game. And yeah, I mean, that's about all I can say about story stuff without getting into spoilers, so I will move on to our next topic. So yeah, let's get into it. So for this next part of the video, I want to talk about how the game feels, how it feels to really play the game, and how it feels to glide around the world through the different means, and how the sandbox actually feels. Now, the sandbox of this game is kind of unique in the sense of being open world, which is really new for the Halo games. Like, this is a concept kind of toyed around with the past games, but not really fully seen. Yes, in past games, the world is very open as far as most missions go. Like, if you look at Combat Evolved and the first mission where you're on the ring initially, that's pretty wide open, but it's still a linear game. Even in 3 with the mission where you're fighting the multiple scarabs, it's definitely more open, but it's also, once again, linear. I feel like all those older games, even 4 and 5, have some aspects that make them feel more open, but they ultimately are not. This game, however, I feel like it does a really good job at capturing an open world kind of feeling that past games in the series just did not seem to capture. And it really does help this game. I feel like it's an innovation that Halo really needed to really thrive in the current era of gaming, especially with titles like Elden Ring coming out. That was an amazing game. Probably we'll talk about that eventually, but that's getting off topic. So, as far as gameplay feels in general, it feels really nice, although it can be glidey at times with the grappling hook, which can be fine, honestly. It's like playing Just Cause 3. That game was really good with the grappling hook, and I feel like this game kind of takes the same sort of idea that Doom Eternal did. Another game with a grappling system that feels the same sort of way, and it's a fun system. I'll give it that. Anyway, as far as the gunplay goes, it's a Halo game. Come on, the gameplay is fantastic as far as shooting your gun and popping a dude in the head. I mean, fighting aliens, it just feels as good as it always did in these games, and can't really complain about that. It's always a good part of the game and a fun aspect, of course. Even looking at things like the variety of enemies. Now, in this game, one thing I'm very glad about is that fact that we do not have those stupid Prometheans anymore. I did not like those enemy types, and they just were such a pain to fight. I'm very glad that they took out that type of enemy. I feel like they were really bad for the Halo sandbox and the general feel of the game. They didn't help with the flow so much, and I'm glad they removed them, at least for now. Maybe in the DLC we'll see them again, but thankfully for that base campaign we don't see them. And yeah, as far as that goes, I think that about covers my thoughts on the overall gameplay and how it feels to actually go throughout the world, and kind of describing to you guys how it is if you haven't played it yet. So let's go into the sound. So audio wise, this game is fantastic. The guns are very meaty, and shooting, especially things like the BR and any of the UNSC weapons, really feels like you're shooting a gun. And it has that really meaty sounds I like to have in games. And I feel like that really helps to the benefit of the game to really fuel what it's trying to be. And that's an action sci-fi shooter that we all know and love. Sure, it doesn't have a lot of the same things as before, but we are finally seeing things back to how they were. I especially love the return to designs, but this section isn't about designs, it's about sound quality. Overall, I love the sound quality of the game. Did a really good job at making poppy noises that just sound nice. Not too much bass, not too little. I love that. And then even the music, oh, it's so good finally hearing them go back to the original Halo music. Like, hearing those tracks is just so nostalgic going throughout this campaign. I absolutely adored being able to play this campaign and see these classic tracks back in the story. I really feel like it made for some awesome moments, especially going into some of the battle sequences. And it really just made my experience that much better, just knowing those tracks that the original games really had are back, at least to some degree. Even if they're not exactly the same, they still do a good job at encapsulating that original feeling I had growing up playing these games. My first game being, I believe, Halo 3 back in the day, and that's still my favorite game. Nothing will beat Halo 3 for me in this franchise. I mean, maybe they will. Who knows? Anyway, let's move on from sound and to the next section. So far, this video has been very positive, I feel. And I do have a lot of things I really love about this game. And I do feel like it has a lot of things that are done very good. And I really just adore with how it was able to encapsulate this sort of feeling throughout what you're experiencing. Now, the downsides of it aren't that insane, but I feel like the big problem with the game is story pacing. and just the way the story and narrative overall is really told to you. Sure, there are the audio logs, but I feel like they try to use those as a crutch instead of directly telling us the story of the Banished and who they are. Yes, they did do Halo Wars 2, but we didn't even really learn about what the Banished are in that game. I mean, we learned about their war movements, but we don't really know what they're about entirely. Like, yes, we do get to learn some about what they're about. Ultimately, it comes down to an idea of they're just warmongering apes. That's kind of all we know about them. We don't have any in-depth story of who they are and why they're around. Yes, they are an offshoot of the Covenant, and the Covenant banished them, i.e. the name, and I just find it kind of weird that there isn't any real deep story to what we know about them so far. I do feel like they did some good aspects with telling their story and just giving us a whole new side of the Halo lore with them, but I'd love to see more, and I hope we do get more of that story going forward into the next titles, DLCs, whatever. So that's pretty much as far as bad things go for this game, so let's go on to some final thoughts. Overall, this game does a lot of things right, and it does cave to some nostalgia things that I really appreciate with it. I do believe it does have some also downfalls, which I did just go into. I would recommend this game to anyone who loves Halo. Anyone like me who has played the games and been there for a long time will appreciate this title. And even people coming into the franchise. I feel like this is a good on point in general, because it seems to start up a new story. You don't need to know about anything about anyone necessarily, but I feel like in general, it's not a bad game. It's not an amazing game either, but it's not bad. That's for certain. I think I'd give this game a score of an 8. Now, the reason for that is because it's not bad. It does so many things right. It just doesn't compare to what the old Halo games were. Yes, it is better than 4 and 5. I will definitely say that. There's nothing in me that will tell you that 4 and 5 were better than this. I just feel like they did a poor job at really getting into more depth about the story that is told, so I'd even probably give this game a 7 realistically. So, anyway, let's go into the last little bit here. So, ending things off here, that is going to wrap up my thoughts on Halo Infinite and what that sort of encapsulates for me, how much I liked it, how much I didn't like it, and in general, thanks for watching. Honestly, it's really appreciated that you guys are watching this content, liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all of that stuff. I do appreciate it. So, in the meantime, have fun, take care, and I will see you next time, dear friends. Peace.